next slide. So I'm going to share with you one of the proposition. Okay, it's a value proposition of executive condominiums as well as my personal experience. So when I share, right, it's through not only knowledge, not only research, but importantly, right, through my own personal growth and journey that I'll be sharing with you. And this is the first important article. Executive condominiums, right, are actually structured in a way, right, that it is a hybrid housing. Hybrid housing means when you buy, you're actually buying with terms and conditions from HDB regulation. Okay, so it's a hybrid between a public housing and a private property. So when does it turn to private property, right? It's 5 years minimum occupation, which is the HDB regulation. And subsequently, after MOP, another 5 years, it will turn into privatized, which means you can then sell to foreigners. Okay, but before that, MOP stage at the 5-year mark, you can only sell to Singaporeans or SPR. So with this, right, you can see that EC's restrictions are one of the most essential thing that you need to understand, because for a similar condo that you are comparing to the surrounding outside central region, right, which means the mass market, right, what is going to happen is that when you buy, you're buying off a discount. This is what we call the subsidized housing, which means you are taking a grant, which means this is really subsidized. And on the other hand, when you sell, people are comparing to the resale market. So this is one very important factor that you need to do. Okay, and of course, ECs offer a variable entry route as a discounted price. So this is again what I emphasize, that you are buying at a subsidized and discounted rate. Okay, but when you want to sell in future, you can see from here, using a typical number of residential that at least have 1,000 square feet in size. So in 2023, right, basically what we are talking about is a range of 2.2 to 3 million for a 1,000 square feet range. And the next jump, right, which is also quite a lot of transactions, right, is actually 3 to 5 million, which means if you are buying 1,000 square feet, which means it's either a 3+ study, which is 947 square feet thereabout, or 1023 square feet, which is a 4-bedroom compact. Okay, and if this range of property, right, usually in the resale market, you will get around 2 to 3 million range, as well as if it is maybe a prime area, you may even get $3 to $5 million range. Okay, so with that, your understanding is that you are getting at a discount, but how much is the discount? So as you can see from here, this is the records as of January 25. Okay, and at January 25, right, you notice, right, the gap between the mass market, which is the outside central region, OCR stands for outside central region, the outside central region new condo, and the price gap between the new EC launch, right, the range of the gap is around $700 over dollars. Actually, it's close to $800. And because of that, you can see from the left-hand side of this chart, right, it is actually smaller in the gap. Okay, the smaller in the gap in 2019, which is only 33%. But today, you can see that it's a huge, massive discount. Also because executive condos are still very desirable. That's the first thing. And I think one of the key aspects is that EC, right, only have 1 or 2 plots per year. Okay, so with that in mind, you know that this is something very rare. Okay, rare in the sense of supply. Okay, so rarity in supply. Now, this article comes in just nice, and of course, this picture also taken at this Orel. You can see people are crowding around the model to actually have a look and understand about the development. So this article actually states more EC actually resold, meaning to say when the MOP they resold, right, at least 1 million profit in 2024, and the number has more than doubled compared to the previous year. Okay, so previous year it was around 10 over transactions, which is like I think 15. Okay, to be exact, it's 15. And in 2024, it has more than doubled, which is 38. Okay, and this is something that I feel you should understand. Why are people paying for this kind of price tag? Okay, so with that in mind, let me just go back and share with you. You see, the main difference of a HDB, this is brought up by one of my live session earlier on, when I show, right, some viewer actually asked, CJ, do you know, I wanted to cash out from my HDB. So the first question when I hear this, right, I asked him, I asked the gentleman or the viewer, right, what do you mean by cashing out? Do you mean by you want to refinance, or do you mean you want to sell? All right. So the word cashing out probably have two meaning. One is to refinance, one is to sell. But you see, when the person asking this question genuinely, right, do not know that HDB cannot refinance. So what they thought is that, oh, I fully pay the property, I can actually refinance. That's the first thing. Second thing is that after they understood, oh, so it means I have to sell, then the next question goes back to, if I were to sell, where should I move to next, right? So this is a very critical factor that most seller or buyers will think about. So when they want to sell, maybe they want to cash out to use some of the funds, right? Assuming a resale HDB in Tampines going for 750,000. If you want to enjoy the same vicinity in the Tampines area and you just want to downgrade from 5 room to maybe a 4 room, the 4 room may be costing you between 450 to 550. So when you do a so-called a downgrade from a 5 bedroom to a 4 bedroom, you probably can cash out 200,000 or less. But the transaction fee, meaning to say the stamp duty, the agent fee, the moving fee, the reno fee, etc., right? You may not even have 200,000 at the end of the day. So the question goes back to, is it feasible for you to retire comfortably if you were to hold on the asset for long term? Okay, so that's the first point. Second point is that for affordability of HDB, obviously, right, in terms of today's market where we are talking about GLS, unless it is en bloc from a freehold property, but if it is GLS, it's 100% or 99 years, so similar to HDB, which is also 99 years, right? So now then comes the next question. MOP of HDB and EC are the same. Okay, so here's the consideration. You have to understand that EC has the flexibility of refinancing, meaning to say at the end of the day, if you really enjoy the stay there, you can choose not to sell and you can just refinance and gear up and have some of the funds for you to retire, for you to use on maybe your children's education needs or your business setup or whatsoever, your turnover. It doesn't matter, but most importantly, see these two difference, right? But of course, the next one will be the private property, which brings me back to the first question I posted to you guys. The first question was, why do you think people still go and buy a $3 million and use 750,000 down plus on top of that stamp duty close to $1 million, right? It doesn't make any sense. But here's the truth. They don't use their own money. The fact of the matter is many of them are actually upgraders, meaning to say they would have profited from somewhere and use that profit to reinvest, and that's how they grow their property portfolio. So I'm going to give you some examples later on, and I really urge everybody to pay very special attention to all the case studies that I'm going to share, because it matters to your asset progression. It matters to you in breaking through your journey of your elevation of your assets. So this is something very important. And at this moment, I like to ask, how many of you wish you were this owner here who have profited 4.4 million? Let me see. Who wish you were this owner? Let me see in the chat. Type 1 if you really wish you're the one. Type 1 if you wish you're the one. Okay, $4.4 million. Okay, thank you, Jean. Thank you, Yvonne. Thank you, June. Thank you, Ken. Okay, we have Jade. Thank you so much. We have Technology Dinosaur. Thank you. Okay, so y'all wish you were this person, right? But here's the truth. Okay, not everyone can be like them. Why do I say that? Because you see, when they bought this unit, it's $5.8 million. It's a penthouse unit. So $5.8 million for many Singaporeans, because we're talking about EC means you must have minimum 1 SE, right? Which also brings me to the point. Not every Singaporean will buy a penthouse at 5.8 million because there's tons of choices. It's almost the top of the range where you can buy a inter-terrace, you can buy a corner terrace, you can buy a semi-D, maybe an older semi-D, and you are still within a $6 million budget. So with that in mind, not many Singaporeans will want to buy a penthouse at 5.8. However, because this person knows the pro and con of investing in condo, example, excuse me, sorry. Wow. Okay. So this for the next buyer to come in to buy from you at 10 over million, right? Highly likely is someone who cannot buy a landed, because 10.02 million, right, also means they can buy a landed. So most likely they want the space, they like the condo, maybe the facilities or whatsoever, the convenience of the location, or near school, near parents, doesn't matter. But what's most important is that they must have some restriction on perhaps buying a landed, which is why they are considering buying a penthouse. And because of that, my friends, this person made $4.4 million. It is literally better than you kena the ang pao draw, because the ang pao draw still need to share by maybe a few person, right? So this is a person making this 4.4 million profit. So with that in mind, let me just quickly go through. Do you want to also know where is your first pot of gold? If you want, please type yes. I want my first pot of gold. Yes. So type yes, because if you want, I can share with you how exactly you can do and model after what we have achieved and seen so many of our clients achieve the same results. Okay, so we are going to share with you success story. We're going to share with you the case studies. Okay, so we have very excited Jean. Jean is very excited. Okay, we have Dinosaur very excited. Okay, so here's the next thing that I want to know. In your property journey, before you even start talking about how you want to make the first pot of gold, it is important to know you have a lifespan. And this lifespan is your so-called prime age, where you potentially can upgrade, and the banks are very happy to loan you the money. Okay, and the reason you need to know this is because we are all at different journey, different stage of our lives. Okay, for some of you here, maybe you are in your 20s, for some of you in the 30s, and some of you in the 40s. So you see, we don't have much years. Okay, the prime years is 25 to 50. After you turn 50, honestly, I can tell you, the bank is very reluctant, okay, to loan you the money. Either there's two ways. Either you are very rich by then, you're already able to down pay a lot, or you are earning a lot that they are willing to loan you the money. Okay, so with that in mind, please remember, where are you between 25 and 50 years old? Do you want to plan to buy a BTO, a prime housing, okay, the prime PLH, right, the prime housing, right? If you are buying those, right, your journey is even lengthened, okay, meaning to say you will take longer years to exit. And always remember, the longer you take to exit, the longer you need to think twice, because first of all, your age is catching up, right? So that's the reason why I'm sharing. And of course, based on these few examples, you can see that EC is one of the best options. And just to share, the average holding period for most of the even private residential, right, is also 9 years. Nowadays, very rare you get people selling 3 to 5 years, they make tons of profit. Usually, the average holding period is also 9 years thereabout. So with that in mind, you are not holding any longer than the private property owners who choose to invest in private. Okay, so this is, and moreover, EC, you must have the eligibility criteria, right? So with that, let us remind ourselves, okay, we have limited lifespan for prime age investment. So your first pot of gold is going to be critical. Okay, when I say critical, again, I want to highlight, you can see the age. Okay, so let's take reference of EC. If you're earning 16,000, you only can loan around, based on MSR, right, you can loan around $1 million, okay, based on if you're able to loan maximum 30 years. Your maximum loan that you can secure based on the MSR LTV is about $1 million, which means if you're buying a 3+ study at 1.7 million, you need to cough out 700,000, okay, of cash or CPF, okay, before the loan start to disperse at $1 million point, right? With that in mind, maybe further down the road, when you TOP, when you MOP, subsequent down the road, which is within the 9 years, right? Maybe your income goes up. And when your incomes go up from 16,000 to maybe 20,000, okay? By then, you may be 35, you may be 45, doesn't matter, because I've already shown you the slide. You can actually see which age you're at, right? Maybe 10 years down the road. Let's say I am 40 years old. By 10 years later, I'm 50 years old. So I look at the 50 years old column and I see, oh, even if I continue to increase my earnings or my salary, okay, at 20,000, I can only take a loan of 1.4 million, and my property is $2 million purchase price. So the value that I can purchase is still 2 million. Then again, I'm thinking, 10 years from now, my friend, got property still at $2 million, man? I'm not sure. I'm just asking. So you have to think carefully. And when I ask this later, when I share my example, you will then understand why people still have the capacity to invest or reinvest. Okay, so the next life hack that I'm going to share with you, right, is the springboard to success, which this springboard is what we call your future is in your hands. Now, if you decide to take this route, I am very certain you will make the money. But the question is how much? So how much, again, determined by your affordability, how prudent you are, and the horizon of how long you will hold the property for. All right. So with that in mind, I'm going to share with you one example, the classic example of 100 pump, because 100 pump sold out in one day. I don't know whether Orel of Tampines will sold out in one day because it's oversubscribed and it's almost oversubscribed by 3 times. So because of that, my friend, I'm going to share with you this 100 pumps, which is just transacted recently at 1,009 per square foot. Now, if a resale EC can transact at 1,009 per square foot, Orel of Tampines is only hovering around 1,750 per square foot on average, and it's brand new, not been stayed in before. By the time 3 years later you collect your key, it's brand new. All right. So because of all this, you can see the average profit over the past 2 years for 100 pump. Obviously, it's not having a lot of transaction past 2 years, so but the average for past 2 years, you can see that it's 800 over 1,000 per unit, and the highest profit for this development has already crossed $1 million. Okay, so however, just now we were talking about the HDB example, right? That if you were to choose HDB and if you were to choose, you want to cash out, there comes the problem. Because if you were to buy a surrounding property near 100 pumps at that point in time that you didn't decide to go for an EC and you chose to buy a resale, okay? And this is what will happen. The same time frame, I'm not taking a consideration of buying now versus previous. I'm taking the same time frame of in 2017, which is the period bought in 2017 for this particular 100 pump 3-bedroom versus a 4-bedroom or 5-bedroom bought in the same year 2017, right? It would have been 300 over 1,000, which is close to 400,000, and 480,000 for the 5-room. They were both profitable. However, you can see the profit margin is super different. One of the profit margin is at the 4-room respectively, 195, which is close to 200,000, and the 5-bedroom close to 300,000 or exactly 300,000. Now, my friend, this is exactly why a segment is important. So which segment you want to go for is super critical. And this is the reason why our PM, right, has always emphasized and repeatedly emphasized public housing will always be kept affordable. And by saying so, they have been proven. They have been eyeing the real estate market for decades, okay, for literally decades, and ensuring that every decade that whichever prime minister take over, they will continue to look at a very close observation of the public housing versus the average household income to keep it affordable. And how do they do that? Let me just bring you to the POV of a minister. Okay, if you are a minister, you look at this household income from 10 years ago. Okay, the household income, the average employee, full-time employee is around 3,007. Today is maybe close to 6,000, etc. But you see, when they look at this, okay, they understand the affordability has increased. Okay, next, they also look at the household, because that is one person. They look at the household income. So sometimes you have some people doing part-time. Even if I'm a full-time worker, I may be having some part-time. For example, I go and drive Grab. For example, I go and do some Grab food delivery, or I go and do some Amazon delivery. Doesn't matter. But what I'm saying here is, if they were to do some part-time, the household income can potentially increase. And likewise, back in 2013, it was 7,800 for household income from work, versus today, it is around close to 11,000. So with that in mind, right, the increase is 38%. But let's take the average, which I've highlighted over here. The average is 46% increase over the 10 years for employed full-time residents, right? So 46% is the increase. You have to look at the HDB itself on average. You cannot take reference for a one-off deal at $1 million. Okay, so it's not the average. $1 million deal that it is happening, but there are HDB over 1 million household. So you're only talking about 1,000, which is out of 1 million, you have 1,000 over transaction of $1 million, right? It doesn't mean that every household can sell 1 million. So what's the fact is that the average household transaction for the HDB housing, public housing, right, is still hovering around the 46 to 47%, which is on par with the income increase. Okay, and with that in mind, it means that the government has successfully keep the public housing affordable. And with this in mind, I just want to put your attention back to, if it is capped to your income, isn't it true that whatever potential upside is also very kept within a range? Because that's what the minister want. They want to make sure that you are able to afford. That means the future buyers are able to afford. So with that in mind, let us observe about the private property. What happened to the landed segment over the past 10 years? Now, as you can see, the landed segment, right, has increased 78% instead of the 46 or 47%. It has increased 78%, outperformed the salary income increase, okay, as well as the private residential, which goes back to the point that even if as a private residential, you increase 65%. To a lot of people, it may still feel affordable. But just now we were talking about $1 million down, right? It goes back to the point that I want to put across. These people are buying because they have made profit from their initial investment versus someone who is using their hard-earned money. So when you hard-earned money, you procrastinate, you think here, think there, scared this, scared that, right? So when you scared, what happened? You procrastinate. Okay, you take no action, and because of this, you deter your asset progression journey. And with that in mind, going into which segment is super important. So profitability of segment brings me back to the point that 100 pumps is not alone. So I'm going to show you some of the profitable transactions in the EC segment. And as you can see, Asperina Residences, which already transacted more than $1 million in profit. Okay, and the transaction on average also for the past 2 years hovering around 679K per unit in terms of profit. Okay, let's look at City Life in Tampines, the highest transaction with $1 million in profit. The average profit for the rest of the transactions over the past 2 years, 688,000 per unit. Right, then Tampines Trillion, we have $1.22 million. Okay, and again, this Tampines Trillion, right? You can see that it is also transacted at 2 over million. Obviously, this is not even a 5-bedroom, but Orel is a 5-bedroom starting from 2.258 million. So this is something that you want to consider. And the per square foot is similar, it's 1,007 plus, so it's similar. So you want brand new or you want resale, it's totally up to you. But you can see that right now, if you are talking about the entire Tampines, right, for a 5-bedroom, it is really rare. So people who have big household, 3 or 4 children, they may consider, and affordability then goes up to compare to the rest of the resale properties, which in the Tampines area is super rare to have a 5-bedroom. And again, for this Tampines Trillion, you can see for the past 2 years, the average profit was 689K per unit. Okay, then we have Topiary, and Topiary again crossed the $1 million mark. Average for past 2 years, 609K per unit. Okay, and the Arc of Tampines, also same thing, very close to $1 million for the highest transaction, average $500,000. All right. The Eden at Tampines, this is a property that I owned when I first bought a property. And again, my story goes back to share with you in terms of my experience. When I sold this property, which I purchased at 400 over 1,000, when I sold at 700,000, the 200 over 1,000, I go and make a purchase using it as a down payment. Can you see how when you use your profit to down pay, you don't feel the pinch? It's the same as today if I cash out a $1 million profit. I go and reinvest and put the $1 million down for a $3 million profit. I don't feel a pinch because that's my profit. I upgraded my asset progression, I upgraded my portfolio, right? So the keyword here is portfolio increase, your asset progression increase, and your total value of your property, right, will then be determined in future when you sell and want to downgrade. For example, if you feel you don't need the household so big anymore, your children all grown up, by then you go back to a HDB, how much profit do you have that can help you with your retirement? Okay, so or perhaps you want to just use a gear up or use a mortgage withdrawal loan, up to you. But HDB cannot do that because HDB cannot refinance. All right, so with that in mind, it goes back to this question here. This Eden was transacted above $1 million in profit, and of course for the past 2 years again it was average of 680,000. Same goes to the bill, close to 900,000, and average is $500,000 and above. Okay, and the quintet as well, above $1 million, average $500,000. All right, so I'm going to show you these resale ECs, right, happening in 2024 that has an average, okay, of 700 over 1,000. These are the top resale EC condos, meaning to say they have volume, okay, number of volume. That means Treasure Crest has 82 transactions. Wonderville have 30 transactions. So the average for this high volume EC resale are doing at around the average of 700 over 1,000. May I ask at this moment, how many of you don't mind a 700 over 1,000? Can you put yes in the chat group if you don't mind? Can you put yes in the chat group if you don't mind a 700,000 profit? Okay, you put yes. You put yes. Okay, Ken say don't mind. Okay, and we have Jean. Jean obviously say don't mind, and a lot of people say don't mind. Okay, okay. Thank you for your replies. Thank you so much. And this is exactly the reason why I share that on average it's like that. What about the extreme? We're talking about extreme. Okay, extreme is very different. You see, the highest is Windermere, 1.73 million. The owner bought at 900,000, transact at 2.6, a transaction that cash out a profit of 1.73 million, and so on and so forth. Even the top 10, the last number 10, also crossed a 1.22, which is the Tampines Trillion example that I showed you earlier on. So with that in mind, you can see that it is very, very possible that this segment is going to bring you your next pot of gold, my friends. So your next pot of gold determines which segment you go into. And even when we take reference for very old EC, so the very old EC means 2007, okay, example, until 2023. So for this period, that means after holding a period of 10 years, that means within this period of 07 to 2023, with a minimum holding period of not less than this 10 years, right, saw a profit on the highest bar you can see is between 3 to 400,000 and maybe 500,000. That's the highest number of bar. So this is the holding period that can give you this kind of amount. And of course, having said that, I'm just going to show you every time when there's a brand new EC, right, the demand, right, outstrip the supply. Okay, what do I mean? That means the demand got 1,002, the supply only got 1,000, as you can see in 2024, which is why at this moment, before the official launch, that means the booking day, which is this coming Saturday, before the official launch of Orel, which may end up like 100 pump like that, one day sold out. But in the event, okay, it's 100% sold out. Again, demand outstrip, because I already mentioned the demand is 3 times oversubscribed. All right, so because of 3 times oversubscribed, you have to understand that every time got a new launch coming up, right, the demand is so high. Okay, and there will be disappointed buyers. Okay, for the past 2 weeks, I'm at the sales gallery, right, from 7 plus a.m. all the way till past midnight. And every day, there are many buyers that actually wanted to appeal. Okay, there are many kinds of appeal, as I mentioned. One is probably for MOP and the other one is for income purposes. So income purposes means although they make slightly more than 16,000, but probably they have some issues. Example, they have medical bills for their parents and so on and so forth, or they are giving allowance to some of the old folks that they are living with, okay, which probably in-laws or their parents. All right, so these are real, genuine people wanting to take up this segment, wanting and aspire to grow, wanting to be part of this aspiring group of private residential owners. However, they are restricted because of the income, okay, which means it is so-called, in the MP's term, is the sandwich class, okay, and this sandwich class of people are really finding it challenging. Not obviously it's because of the cost of living, but on the other hand, it's also the affordability of a brand new private property, which obviously is going to cost $3 to $5 million, but they may not have this kind of money to down pay. They may not even have the capability to take the loan. So the only potential, I would say, life hack, okay, is to go into the right segment, which is the EC segment. And due to this, my friend, I have to tell you something very important. You see, at this moment, we are only left with less than 150 units. Okay, and this is end of January, my friends. End of January, and obviously February, we also sure sell some units, right? So you know the supply has definitely shrink from 150 to even lesser than maybe 140 or 130. So these are things that you need to be aware of, that there are no more EC in the current market, even for post-launch. Okay, so these are some of the units you can see of almost fully sold, other than Novo Place, okay, and Lumina Grand. Other than these two, okay, the rest are almost fully sold already. Okay, even including North Gaya, also almost fully sold, right? So with that, let's check out the average transacted price. So one thing to note when you look at this chart, okay, is you must remember from 2010 for this chart, 2010 all the way to 2024, there are all 100% not GFA harmonized except for Novo Place. Okay, Orel of Tampines is the second plot of GFA harmonized EC. Okay, so with that in mind, you must also understand that when you sell a harmonized, okay, which later I'll give you the example, but just to jump the gun a bit, this price, you must give a discount for Orel also, because it constitutes 6 to 8% to the aircon ledge and so on, the non livable space that you cannot step on, right? So these are the things. So again, go back to the question of asset progression and your portfolio. So let us put our focus on portfolio. Imagine I am holding on to the Eden at this junction, okay? Although I bought 400 over 1,000, right? Even today is about 1.2 million, right? I made a profit of 800 over 1,000. Imagine I'm still holding on. My asset class will be a condo that is worth 1.2 to 1.3 million dollars. Okay, that's all. But today, which is why I want to share, today, I continue to upgrade, I continue to asset progress, right? I have a multiple property, or even I can own a landed. And the landed, even if the property price don't increase, you know you're sitting on $6 to $7 million. You know at the end of your repayment, that particular profit margin, or not even profit, even the exact same amount, can help you to downgrade to a HDB with a substantial amount for your retirement. Okay, so these are things that you need to plan ahead, because it doesn't just fall from the sky. You need to decide on day one that I want to achieve this, and how you can go is by decision making along the way, and also attending consumer seminar like this, so that you are aware that there are possibilities, so that you will start planning. If every day you don't plan, then obviously nothing will happen, correct or not? Okay, so as we can see from here, Park Town, right? Park Town is also something very amazing, and Park Town is actually very close to Orel. It's less than, I would say, a 5 minutes walk. For those of you who are also involved in Park Town, or perhaps you are a buyer, you have visited Park Town, you know it's very, very nice, right? However, again, the per square foot, right, is 2,360 per square foot. So many buyers felt the pinch. Okay, so while they felt the pinch, you must remember it's a decision. When I decide to buy 2,360, if you use a GFA harmonization to compare, you less off another 6 to 8%, right? It brings the whole average per square foot down to 2,100 plus. And if you were to think of 2,100 plus, you decide to live in an integrated hub, okay, where you have retail, you have bus interchange, you have hawker center, you have MRT, you have almost everything, you have community center, and that itself is a privilege. And if you decide to enjoy the convenience, so be it. You are paying for what you enjoy, so be it, right? So because of this, right, you can see the take-up rate in Tampines, the demand is so high, and this is definitely a true testament of the genuine demand of upgraders in Tampines. And of course, Tampines is not just Tampines. Other than being a regional center, right, Tampines is also the biggest estate, and also we are also attracting people from District 16, 17, 18, and 19. Okay, the reason is very simple. All these districts that I mentioned, right, don't have a lot of launches. Okay, if you want any more launches, right, you probably have to cross to the Prime East. But if you cross to the Prime East, your per square foot jumps significantly to 2007, 2008, or perhaps even close to 3,000 per square foot. And that itself is a hindrance or a deterrence for a lot of buyers who aspire to upgrade. Okay, so with that, okay, I just want to bring back the attention for a development, a mega development crossing 1,000 units that can sell above 1,000 units on day one of launch. There's not many, and the previous one was 10 years ago, which close to 1,100, which is 1,100 of units out of 1,390 was snapped up. And back then, my friend, High Park residences starting price is below 400,000 for the studio unit, is that kind of price. So you have to understand that last time is 400,000 for one bedder. Today is 1.1 million for one bedder, and yet Park Town can did so well. It's definitely due to genuine demands. Okay, and for me to share this, right, it brings my focus back to why are we able to do this? It's purely by demand, which is why I highlight to you so many times. There's big four in Singapore. One is Woodlands, Jurong, Bedok, and Tampines. These are the big four estates, and standing out as the biggest in terms of population, okay, by the end of next 4 to 5 years will be Tampines, because Tampines is extending to Tampines North, which is what the big mega hype is happening now at Tampines North, which will also link to the Cross Island Line, which also we are talking about the Park Town as well as Orel of Tampines EC, right? So because of that, you can see during Connect's launch, right, it has overwhelming numbers as well. That was back in 2022, which is just 2 years plus back. And that particular development we have done very well as well. But again, I just want to emphasize that people mention to me and they say, hey, but the per square foot is different. So later on, I'll share with you why the per square foot is different based on GFA harmonization. So this is the average new launch sales and average transacted price for the executive condominium during the new launch sale. Okay, and of course, you can see that the recent years, okay, the take-up rate is superb. Okay, why do I say that? You can see very clearly, every launch, it will cross 50%, which means 50% take-up. And usually it didn't 100% sell out, or maybe close to 80-90%, right? It's because there is a 30% quota, okay? And this quota is only specifically for second-timers. So second-timers who have already enjoyed a privileged housing, which means it's a subsidized housing before, meaning to say they either take a BTO, they have taken a resale with grant, or they have bought an EC before. These three categories of people, right? When they buy a brand new EC from developer, assuming they fall under the second timer category, right? They have a quota, meaning to say the developer will count the number of second timer. Okay, so first timer, second timer, never mind, all consolidated, right? By the time it hits 228, okay, 228 is the magic figure, because 760 units in Orel, right? Once it hit 228, the 229 person, which is a second timer, can no longer book the unit. They have to wait 1 month, assuming they are still balanced. But if one day, because it's 3 times oversubscribed, if one fine day, the first timer are overwhelming enough to continue buying the whole development, then they buy the whole 70% of the development. Congratulations to Orel of Tampines. It will be 100% sold on day one. Okay, so this is how it goes. So as you can see from all the past recent EC launches, Copen Grand, 73%. Tengah, this Copen Grand, after 1 month, right, the second timer can come in again, right? It's 100% sold. Tenet, okay, Tenet on day one crossed 72%, less than 8 months, 100% sold. This, where is this? Let me see. Oh, okay, this is Altura, sorry, Altura. Again, 61%, and it's close to fully sold as well. So we have this Lumina Grand, and again, how many percent? Let me see. 53%. Okay, so every of the launch itself, you can see that the take-up rate is super healthy. Okay, and obviously this is the recent Noble Place clash with another 5 other launches. In November, we have 6 launches, and Noble Place is one of the 6. And again, it is not affected because this is a special segment by itself. You can see that on day one, it's already sold on launch day over 50%. On second timer booking, 1 month later, cross 88%. Okay, so these are all the demand and statistics that you can see. And even for those of them who bought her net, which is right beside Orel of Tampines, right? Congratulations to you, because your property back in 2022, based on current market, it has gone up by 25%. Okay, and you can see from this article, right? So with that in mind, you can see that very clearly the continuity of increasing land bids over the years. So this is the root cause. Just like you sell chicken rice, right? There's only main 2 elements. The renter of the store, obviously, the workers, obviously, but other than this, the element of the ingredients is what we call the root cause. So your chicken and the rice. So chicken rice, how much the chicken rice cost determine on these 2 ingredients, right? So if the ingredient, which means the land cost, is substantially graduating to increase over time, gradually increasing over time, obviously, right, your ultimate end user will have to pay higher. And it's according to affordability, as I mentioned, because developers only dare to bid when the affordability is there, when the take-up rate is healthy, right? The developers won't dare to bid if there's still leftover until now cannot sell, correct or not? So it's only logic that the affordability is there. People have accepted the price. People have moved on because they saw the price gap. Okay, and you can see from the recent years, it is also the same thing. The median price and so on already increased from 1305 to 1340 and 1387, 147. It is going up, and every of the EC launch, right, it will be a benchmark price. It will be a new benchmark. And the one simple fact is that it is still a gap. You can see the private residential market, right? It has increased, but the increase is quite a lot over the past few years, because you can see in 2021 is 10 years plus. That was in the COVID years, right? So everybody wants to upgrade because they have a home-based learning. They have Zoom to go to work, right? They have to work from home, etc. So people start to upgrade, and people even do Zoom to buy houses. So 2021, 2022 increased by 18%, and so on and so forth. Then the subsequent years, about close to 10%. All right. So these are the things that you need to understand, that because of this increase in the private residential, this hybrid segment becomes very super attractive, and goes back to the point. It is widening from just even 2021 before the COVID is only 388 gap, but today is 700 over a square foot gap. Okay, depending on which unit size you're going for. Okay, so if you want to look at the RCR market, which is just beside OCR but nearer to the city fringe, the best example, which is happened in January, okay, you can already see that average is 27. So anything that is in the prime east, example, the Tembusu area, the Grand Diamond area, the Continuum area, they are all transacting around 2007. So these are the prime east, okay? And even to the extent, Toa Payoh with 40-story, you can see that the high floor is going for 3,000 per square foot, and people buy. And for the fact that people buy means they have accepted this price range, okay, as a price that they are willing to pay. Okay, and I already mentioned many times why they are willing to pay, because it is using other people's money or perhaps their own profit. So they don't feel the pinch. Whereas if I were to save money every day, save $5, $10 from my expenses, then I decide to go and buy 3,000 per square foot, I don't think I will even take action at all. So that's the main difference, which is why your starting point, whichever life stages you are in right now, you have to think your life cycle of your critical years of your investment lifespan. Okay, so that's the reason why I shared with you earlier on. And of course, EC is still very appealing because you can buy first without ABSD. You can also buy without selling your HDB, okay, and there's a deferred payment special scheme for you where you only need to pay 20%, you pay your stamp duty, and no more payment until TOP. All right, and even if you have your housing that you never sell, your HDB never sell, there's a bridging loan from the bank to ease the seamless transition from your HDB until your key collection. So this is something that is already helping you to transit seamlessly. So do make use of such very amazing, I would say, tools, okay, provided from the banks to actually leverage on other people's money, okay? And it is 100% profitable from track records, which is why I've shown you so many examples and so many case studies. And of course, it is a hybrid for you to step up, okay, to a private property when it's privatized in 10 years' time. All right. And our previous Prime Minister back then, okay, Mr. Goh Chok Tong, also mentioned that this is a special privilege model, okay, designed to satisfy the demands of those who aspire to own a private property but cannot afford to do so for the private property. Okay, so this is hybrid. All right. So at this moment, I would like to invite everybody to scan if you haven't done so. Okay, this scanning, right, will go to a survey where you can do a survey and potentially you can win. Okay, there are 3 winners. You can win iPad 9 Gen, okay, and the final draw date, right, will be happening end May. Okay, so at the end of the May, we'll do a lucky draw, and if you are one of the participants who have given us the survey, we thank you so much for your survey, and also it helps a lot in our research work. It will definitely goes a long way, but you will also stand a chance to win an iPad, and there are 3 winners. All right, so you can feel free to scan before we talk about the exit strategy. So exit strategy for EC is very simple, my friend. Exit strategy, right, to me, right, is talking about your future buyers. So the first question you're going to ask, right, is who are going to be your future buyers? Okay, let's take a look at Tampines BTO. BTO meaning to say is direct from HDB. You cannot get any cheaper housing than direct from HDB because they are the builder. So with that, you can see that in Tampines itself, right, the HDB will cost anything around 490,000 if you're talking about a typical 4 or 5 room. Okay, and in the resale, okay, you can see again in 2024, this is just a difference of a couple of months. You can see the increase in the 5-bedroom. It went all the way up in the transaction history, right, to 700 over 1,000 to 900 over 1,000. Okay, so these are the first group of people who potentially will have a profit from the upgrading where they potentially can help you exit. So these are the first group. The second group, again, Tampines, if you take a look at the resale, just 2 years, 2020 to 2022, okay, it has increased 100 over 1,000 in Tampines alone. The highlighted under the red line, highlighted. Tampines 535,000 to 650,000. And this is between 2020 to 2022. What about 2024? Because another 2 years has gone by, right? You see, it has increased by another difference of, let me see, my screen is blocking. Okay, it has increased another, becomes 730,000 instead of 600 over 1,000. It becomes 700 over 1,000. So because of this increase, right, again, the total increase from 2020, right, it has a 36% increase. And this windfall profit from the resale market has made executive condos an alluring buy for HDB upgraders. This is again why I emphasize when you buy into the privileged class that you have the first mover, when the future HDB upgraders want to so-called upgrade, right, they potentially will buy from you. And this is the fact of the matter. And in Tampines itself, if you know that there isn't a lot of condos to begin with, okay, so with that, you can see HDB ramping up. Every time you see HDB ramping up 100,000 flats, it means that the price of the resale HDB has gone up quite a lot in order for the government to say, okay, let's ramp up 100,000. Back then, if you recall, it was happened in 2011 to 2014. In 4 years, every single year, they come out with 25,000 to make up 100,000 to ease the demand. Okay, that is 2011 all the way to 2014. And We did this exercise just recently once again. 100,000, 5 years, okay? In 2021 to 2025, 5 years, okay? Ramp up to 100,000. And again, why do they do 100,000 in 5 years, okay? Obviously, it is to ease the resale market. And when I say that, you can see that the resale units transaction has stabilized, okay, has stabilized in terms of between 24,000 to 28,000 range. It has stabilized in that range, but you can see that the price of HDB island-wide has increased. Okay, and based on the statistics of the resale index, you can see that it has increased almost quite a fair bit, okay, in 2022, 2021, and in 2024 as well, okay. And over this period, starting from 2020, it has increased 50 times, which also means the resale you bought in 2020, now 5 years MOP already. That means I buy a resale in 2020, now MOP, right? If I buy 500,000, today is worth 750,000, right? So this obviously means that they want to ease the market. They have to come up with more BTO or ready sales of balance flat that buyers can potentially consider, and that will help ease the demand. So with that, you can see that there is this impact of the ruling of the 15 month as well. For those of you who cannot recall, about close to April 2 years ago, which means as to be exact, is 23 months ago. Okay, 23 months ago, right? We have this regulation that was released. It was a 15-month time bar for PPO. PPO stands for private property owner. So PPO, when they sell their private property, they want to exit into a HDB, and then they want to cash out and use that for retirement, right? Above 55 years old, you can buy 4-room and below. You don't need to wait for the 15-month time bar. But for anybody else who sold a PPO as a PPO, you have to wait out 15-month time bar. And if you look at April 2023 all the way to last year 2024, about August, right, which is the time bar period, right, it is true that the transaction volume spiked. Okay, in the second half of the year, last year, it went up and it saw a lot of transactions for the $1 million HDB, where people who have cashed out from their private property re-enter the market after the time bar. Okay, and this can show you it has almost every single month doubled in terms of the number of $1 million transactions for HDB, okay, for last year. Okay, and again, bring me back to the point. Because of the ramp up in the previous years, 2011, remember 2011 to 2014, right? They ramp up, right? The BTO, right? If they were to collect keys in 2015 and stay there for 5 years, 2022, you can see that the number of these MOP, right, coming to the market has also increased, which means the 100,000 will come in from 2019 all the way to 2022, the 4 years that was in 2011, right? And that itself, you can see the bump up of the bumper crop of this MOP spurring more HDB upgraders. And obviously, these people who MOP, they need not sell immediately, but this group of people, when they sell, they also need a 15-month time bar if they were to want to buy back HDB. But you see, this question here is about upgrading, and this aspiring group of MOP people potentially will be your buyers. Okay, and of course, the value of EC as well as the Tampines as a regional center is already an appealing factor, but nevertheless, Tampines North is the next wave of moving the Tampines estates pricing. Okay, the reason is very simple. Tampines North is still ongoing. It is not complete. It is only complete by 2030. Okay, and there are more housings to be provided for Tampines North area, which means there will be future plots, okay, as well. So 5-year master plan to enhance Tampines Regional Center, and of course Tampines North is a new green shoot for Tampines Town itself, which will have an estimate of 21,000 household dwellings, including 4,000 private properties, right? So these are important information. So with that, let's take a focus on Parcel A at Street 62, which is Tenet. Okay, you can see from this clearer picture with illustration, Tenet is just beside the high rise, which is plot B. Okay, this plot B is Oriel of Tampines, and the Park Town, which is the one that is in the mixed development zone, that is Park Town. And you can see the facing of Oriel, right, is actually very well designed in the sense that it has no units facing the highway. Okay, so this is cleverly designed, I would say, to take care of the residents so that they have lesser noise level, so that they probably won't hear anything. And also, you need to know that in the entire of Tampines, it is very, very weak in terms of the supply of condo. So people who want to upgrade to a condo are having limited choice. Treasure at Tampines, the biggest development in Singapore with 2,200 over units, right, managed to completely fully sold in less than 3 years during COVID period. This is how much demand there is in Tampines. The resale transaction in Treasure, for those of you who have access, if you are a buyer who are tuning in, ask your agent to show you what is the number of transactions in Treasure in 2024. You will be shocked. Okay, I'm sure you'll be shocked by the number of transactions, meaning to say people exit, people make profit, and it is also that there are demand. If there are no demand, how can they transact? So these are things that you need to understand. So you can ask your agents for it. Now, Tampines is also for many, many young parents. Now, with young parents in mind, obviously, there will be schools that they are concerned that, hey, if I buy Oriel of Tampines, right, is there schools that is within 1 kilometer? So you can also see that we have 3 schools that is within 1 kilometer. We have Angsana Primary, we have Elias Park, we have Parkview. These are the 3 schools. But if you are not concerned on the one click, meaning to say you're all boys or girls, right, you actually have a variety of more choices, okay, for Tampines itself, or maybe even Pasir Ris nearby. Okay, so there are a lot of schools to choose from. Okay, and let us go back to the entry price that we want to highlight. As I mentioned, I want to explain to you the GFA concept. So you must understand GFA was only introduced, right, from 1st June 2023, and there are only 2 ECs at this moment who have this GFA harmonized. Okay, and let us go through. First thing, right, is that previously, right, by all the authorities, the URA, the BCA, the SPF, and so on and so forth, right, they don't have a clear definition between developers and the authorities. They only know you take the middle of the wall, I take the end of the wall. Nobody know what you're doing. Nobody know exactly where to calculate the square footage. So it becomes a bit confusing. Okay, and this potentially be marketed to you as a consumer, the sellable area of the floor footage. Okay, with that in mind, you are paying for space you may not be able to use. Example, in the middle of the wall, there's no way you can walk into the middle of the wall, right? Then the next thing will be the aircon ledges as well as the void areas. Okay, these are all the potential costs that the developer charge to you, but you may not be aware that you are paying for costs that you cannot be using the space. Okay, so constitute to about 6 to 8%. And with that in mind, if you work backwards to $1,750 per square foot, right, it works out to be about 1,500 over per square foot, which means if you compare back to Oriel, which transacted on average between 1,003 to 1,004, if you are buying at 1,005 plus, it is still only a reasonable increase, as I've shown you for the rest of the increase for private property, the HDB, everything also increased. So you are at a very reasonable range of increment on par with the rest of the market, which is why it is still an attractive buy, especially with the price gap that the private property has already set a new benchmark. Okay, and with GFA harmonization, a lot of people may not understand the correct way, meaning to say, oh, developer buy cheaper, does it mean they will sell cheaper? No, it means that they have to sell even more expensive because they cannot sell you the extra space, so they have to build accordingly, right? So you can see Lentor mentioned is a GFA harmonized plot versus the rest of the Lentor area like Lentor Modern, Lentor Hills, Hillock Green, Lentoria, etc. They transacted at a lower price, although their land bids were higher. example 1001 to 1002, right? But you can see Lentor mentioned transacted at 900 over per square foot, lower than the rest of the 4 plots, but it was transacted at an average higher price that is higher than the 4 plots. So this already show very clearly that GFA harmonization do have an impact in terms of costing, but buyers will be very safe because you're buying places that you know exactly the footage you can stand on, means you are paying for every single space that you can set your foot on. Okay, so with that, you can see this is the price matrix. I will highly recommend, okay, you see the actual price list after you shortlist, but I'm just going through a generic one that you can see. If you are going in at 1750 to 1775, which is the middle 2 rows, right? 1750 and 1775, that will be quite an accurate figure, right? To go through your units. However, if you want the lowest entry, let me show you the lowest entry. This is the best deals based on the lowest entry for the specific room types. So for those of you who, about close to 200 of you who are still here, you can see very clearly, right? The 3-bedroom, as we highlighted, starting from 1.417, which is less than 1,007 per square foot. If you use this, right, you can see that these are all the stacks that you should go for if you are budget concerned. Okay, that means you want to go for the lowest entry. And again, during the booking day, right, which is this Saturday, you may not be the first few who are able to get this, right? So this will happen live, okay? Check out with your PropNext consultant because they will know exactly what is the next best deal for you, okay? So we will update, we will let them know so that you are also be aware and you are also very well informed which is the next lowest entry. But of course, lowest entry doesn't mean it's your preferred stack. So, which is why it brings me to the next point. You must pre-select your units on a piece of paper. Write down all the potential pre-selected stacks, whichever unit that you will want to consider, so that the next available that matches your pre-selected don't need to think already. You know why? That in a Mandarin, there's this saying, 买到就是赚到, means you buy means you make the money already. 你买到就是你赚到. This is a ridiculous low entry for private property that will be privatized in the future. So to me, if you can afford to buy, you're eligible, you already have your ballot ticket, this is your chance to transform your life altogether. This will be a breakthrough for your next pot of gold. This will be the ticket to your entry to the private residential market in future, that you don't need to think about the down payment, that you can use the profit to down pay for your future properties, which is the asset progression. So these are the properties that you need to know. And this is on the right is the 3-bedroom premium unit. And of course, on the left, the next slide is the 3-bed plus study and the 4-bed compact. So not to worry, you can take a screenshot. Okay, of course, this is as of today where everything is available. This is the lowest entry. But again, I emphasize, please select whatever choice you need, whatever stack you have. Let your PropNext consultant know so that during the day itself on the booking, they will update you what is the next best for you. Okay, so you can decide very swiftly and immediately book. No need to wait, because once you wait, other people will book. Okay, the moment you wait, other people book means you lost the opportunity to book what you want. Okay, so this is important. The moment you stand there, I ask you what you want to book, you have to go quickly and say, okay, this is the next one I want. This is the one. Okay, then we will book for you. And then that is where you get your choice you need. If you say, oh, let me think, let me consider, let me see, or see the site plan, floor plan again, then gone. Because the next person will come in and the next person will book. So don't let that happen, because 买到就是赚到. The moment you book is the moment you already made. Okay, and of course, this is the 4-bedroom flexi. Okay, starting price 2.022. The 4-bedroom premium starting price 1.991. And the 5-bedroom starting price 2.258. All right, so take the screenshot. I will just flash it once again. Take the screenshot. Okay, this is for 3-bedroom premium. Take a screenshot. Next one, 3-bedroom study, 4-bedroom compact. Take a screenshot. Okay, next one, 4-bedroom flexi, 4-bedroom premium. Take a screenshot. Okay, and the final one, 5-bedder. Okay, so these are the most lowest entry. Okay, starting from price. Okay, and as I mentioned, the next few plots is only going to be more because inflation of raw materials, the increase in labor costs, the supply chain disruption, the GST hike, the harmonization, GFA, everything increased. Okay, so EC that will be happening future down the road. Okay, plantation close, similar price to Nova Place. So no need to say it's going to be about 1,006 to 1,007 plus, or minimum entry at 1,007 plus to 1,008 if you are taking DPS. So the next one will be the Jalan Loyang Besar, which again is higher bid compared to Street 62, which is the Orel. So obviously it should be same or higher. And the next plot, which is next year, January, okay, is Tampines Street 95. Again, it's $40 more expensive. With $40 more expensive doesn't mean $40 more expensive at the end cost, because in between, as I mentioned, you can see all this disruption, the cost, labor, everything, right? This cost that you see is the land bid cost over already. What happens is the cost that is further down the road. So it's only going to increase, my friend. So with that, you must remember the developers have high demand as well, because they go against 7 to 9 bidders for their plot. Means they know that it's very hotly contested. So they are not going to, because as I highlighted many years already, every EC launch is a new benchmark. So there's no need to dwell further. The longer you wait, the more you pay. Okay, that's all. Okay, Simlian is the next one, which Street 95, $40 more. Obviously, you're going to pay more. Okay, and again, new benchmark price. So this is already proven, as I've shown you over the years. Okay, so once again, I just want to highlight a gentle reminder that this is a Corolla, okay, a Lexus selling to you at a Corolla price. Please make sure you come in and drop your ballot ticket. For those of you who already